Oh yeah, I get to hear this with the headphones on now. Yes, sir, ski. This the Hood Analyst Podcast where we talk about that real hood shh. Yeah, I know the routine. Like, subscribe. We drop the long form content every Friday at 8 p.m. And we drop reels, TikToks, shorts, all of that on YouTube every single day, multiple a day. We all work and we all learned how to edit so we can get the content out to you guys daily. We don't have one editor. We don't have two editors. We don't have three editors. We got 4 editors. We all putting out content for y'all so y'all can have it on the daily. Today, I have a very special guest that we already was chopping it up a little bit before we started. We both are producers. We have that in common. So when he started talking about the EQ, when he started talking about raising the volume on the 808s and using multiple, I can relate. I'm not just sitting here talking. I can relate to him. So he's produced for some big names. He got some royalty checks. He know what he doing. He not just in his crib making beats in a 4-corner room with the candle on. He outside with it and he's in the hood with it. So we had to get him on the show. I'm gonna have him introduce himself. Today we got Bray Zonde.
What it do, y'all? It's Bray Zonde here, coming at you live from Hood Analysts. Bray Zonde, a.k.a. Brado Santana, a.k.a. Rap Game Freddie Mercury. Oh. Y'all know the vibes, man,
Yes, sir, ski. Okay, all right. So we gonna start it out like this. What's the most difficult thing about producing a track? I know it's been a while since you first started, but for the people that are getting into producing, what's the most difficult thing so when they get to that hurdle, they go, all right, Bray Zonde dealt with this?
Well, for me, it was, it's like, there's a lot that goes into it, but for me, mainly it was, beat block. And that's what I hear a lot of people, a lot of young producers that I'm working with, they talk about, beat block is a motherfucker. I can't come up with a beat, blah, blah, blah,
For the people that are new to this, not in the music world, explain to them what beat block is. I know what you mean.
Right. So yeah, beat block is basically a producer term for when you can't come up with a beat or everything that you make, you feel like it's not hitting right. It's not sounding as good as something else you may have made that got placed with an artist or something.
Gotcha.
So, it's that kind of like, same thing as writer's block with, someone writing a novel, they can't think of, where to take this character or, what, this person says this person.
Gotcha.
Same thing just with musical notes and drums and all that. So, I see a lot of people struggling, a lot of the young producers I talk about beat block and not having inspiration. And one thing is, I always wondered like, does so-and-so get beat block? Like it feels like, all these other producers that I look up to.
I'm pretty sure they all do.
And I found out sure as hell they all do, every single one of them, because I ended up, actually getting to tap in with them and meet them and, talk to them about their processes. And so, I can assure you, and I'll tell y'all, any producers watching that I get beat block all the time.
Gotcha.
I had some beat block this week, so it's okay to deal with that. I just, that's if there's one thing I want to say on that, it's okay to deal with the beat block. And it's okay to ride out the funk. Don't let the internet and everybody make you think that you have to make 20 beats a day.
Got you.
You can make one beat in a week and that beat could change your life. It doesn't really make a difference.
Got you. Great point. So. Great point. What are some ways that you would attack beat block? Because I know some people that sit in front of the computer and still try. That's a way to attempt it. Some people like me go to the beach, don't think about music at all, go sit under a tree, go work out. How do you attack beat block?
So this is one of the main things I tell anybody who brings tells me like, oh, they're having beat block issues and whatnot. The first thing I tell them to do is go find a producer that you like or you look up to, who's an inspiration to you, and remake their beat straight up.
Sauce.
Go to YouTube to MP3. Because I did this very thing. First shout out of the day. I'm gonna have to give a lot of shout outs today, but first shout out of the day goes to my man Young Glizzy.
Yes, sir.
Big shout outs to Young Glizzy, man. Like my brother and this shit. Like he was one of the first big established producers to rock with me, and I got good at structuring beats and making full beats. Because my friends would send me a lot of his beats in the first place and say, yo, make something like this. So I was like, all right, well, I want to figure out how he does this. How does he structure his beats, et cetera, et cetera. This is before I met bro and everything. So I literally would remake Young Glizzy beats, all the time, and it got to the point where I was, running out of stuff on the page to even find, new stuff to find. And,
okay.
And then eventually, we tapped in and collabed and everything, and just went crazy from there. But that's one of the things I would say is like, if there's no shame in recreating a beat, as long as you're not claiming it as your own and
absolutely,
and all that, as long as you give credit where credit's due, or talk to the producer and tell them that you're doing it more times than not. If you told me you were remaking one of my beats, I would be like, good for you. Go ahead. Absolutely do it. You sample any of my shit. I won't sue you.
I feel you.
I'm kind of at that point, where I'm, I want to encourage people to, delve in and try to figure out, okay, in order to improve your beats, what do some of your biggest inspirations do with theirs, and how do they structure theirs, and remaking the beat that way is, and it doesn't always have to be perfect, the same as theirs. It can be your version of their beat. Just like it's like reverse engineering, taking apart a car to learn more about the inside,
absolutely,
and putting it back together like that.
Yeah, that's some game right there. That's I would definitely see that as very helpful. It's not something that I necessarily did when it came to producing, but I'm an engineer as well. And what I used to do was take a track that I felt was engineered extremely well, crispy, and try to get my vocals to sound just as clear as theirs. So that's definitely a good tip right there. I like that. That's some game for y'all right there. Any starting off producers, that was some real good game. Go recreate some beats. So I like the fact that you said you don't have to make 50 beats in one day. But I am interested in your process and your style and your studio work ethic and how you move. How many beats would you say that you make in a day?
It could be anywhere from 1 to, I would say 10. Okay. 10 on a really good day with a lot of inspiration. Especially, if I have a lot of new loops from other producers that I'm working with, that makes it a lot easier. But yeah, I lately, especially in 2023, my new mantra basically for the year is quality over quantity.
Okay. All right. Nothing wrong with that. I like that.
Coming into this year, I was trying to put out, I was trying to do the 20 beat a day thing, like you hear so many, producers say, especially, big ones that are established that, they'll say, oh, I make 20 beats a day, never do I make less than 10 a day or whatever, and that can, if you're a young producer, exactly. Like it's definitely cap. And if you're a young producer, that can kind of get discouraging because you're like, oh, if so-and-so is able to do this and I'm not, then maybe I'm not meant for it. But no, you can because lately I've been doing just 1 or 2 beats a day
Okay.
in 2023. And I am infinitely more happy with how those come out than when I was trying to just, pack 10 into a day just because I felt like I had to.
Got you. Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's another gem for y'all too. You don't have to make 20, 15 beats in a day. I would say my tip, the way I got my workflow, I created a template with the sounds that I use most frequently, and I'll go in there and be able to make a good amount of beats in a day, but they're quality because the sounds that I chose, the 808s, I'll have like 5 808s there that I know hit, that I know how to use. I would say you want to, like he said, quality over quantity, but you also want to be efficient. You don't want to open up the DAW and have nothing there and then be like, all right, what hi-hat am I going to use? That's going to waste 10 minutes. You want to have 5 hi-hats, 5 claps, 5 808s. Go in there, pick one out of the ones that you already frequently use. So that's how I got faster. But I love the fact that he said quality over quantity, because your quality is going to take a hit when you go too much on the quantity side. So he sounds like he got some sense up here. I'm liking this.
Appreciate you, man.
Brazande, which DAW do you use?
I use Logic Pro 10.
Okay, all right.
Always have, always most likely will. Yeah, that's just the one that, one of my old friends from high school basically got into producing through him. He showed me basically how you download the software and all that, and he was doing dubstep music, and so I knew I wanted to make beats and all that, and he always used Logic, so that was the DAW that I had seen somebody work in and had a basic understanding of how you structure a song in it.
Got you. Okay, all right. Yeah, Logic is cool. A lot of people say, FL. I use FL, but as long as your beats come out fire, use whatever the fuck you want. So I love Logic. I record my music in Logic. I just don't make beats in Logic. For the new up and coming producer, someone who's just getting started, what would you say are the essential pieces of equipment that they need?
So essentials would be, I would say a DAW. I mean, you gotta figure out what DAW you like best.
Pardon me, for the people that are not musically inclined, DAW is digital audio workspace.
Yes.
So it's Logic, FL, Pro Tools. Continue.
Any of those, find whichever one is your home. It basically feels like, there's so many great options out there, especially nowadays. And I would say, treat yourself to a few drum kits.
Okay.
There's a lot more available now. I mean, you've got every producer group and established producer putting out a drum kit nowadays.
Absolutely. Yep.
And there's definitely some that have a lot of value. The shout outs again to my man Young Glizzy. His were some of the first drum kits that I ever got, because those were the types of beats I was making, and so yeah, I think just having a couple of solid drum kits, maybe from your one of your favorite producers or producer collectives, and maybe a nice VST plugin. Nowadays, Instagram, it's very easy to find somebody who can sell, the cracks to VSTs, and you can get an awesome VST like Omnisphere. If you find a reliable, seller on Instagram, you can get something like Omnisphere for, like $50, $100, whereas
very reasonable.
Yeah.
Very reasonable.
If you're buying it from Spectrasonics, it's hundreds of dollars. So, you definitely, I would say, take advantage of those things of you get a solid VST like an Omnisphere or a Nexus, for the low, find a crack, someone who does the cracks on social media, and then, get a few drum kits. So you got some nice 808s that, maybe some of your favorite producer uses. And once you got that, I think you got a really nice, your setup where you can, like you said, set up a template for yourself. Then you can kind of get to know yourself as an artist. Which 808s do you like using best, and which hi-hats are best for your style of beat.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you can plug those in and have them ready to go, template wise, as soon as you open up your DAW.
Absolutely.
So.
I would say you named all the essentials. That's all you need. Computer, DAW, and some kits and stuff. But one thing that I also think that not took me over other producers, but since I'm an engineer, I worry a lot about the sound and how the 808s hit and how the hi-hats hit, the claps hit. So one more thing that I would say is essential is a great pair of studio monitors. You can make good beats in the headphones, and everybody's different, but it's nothing like hearing that sound on some good, clear, crisp speakers that can handle your 808 so you can really sit the instruments in the right pocket. So if you're starting off, I think it's essential to get some KRKs, some Yamahas, something like that. I think that's essential.
Definitely. And if you're in a position to, like, because I've been in this position before, just to, piggyback off of what you're saying about the monitors. If you're in a position where, say you live with your parents or whatever, and you gotta be, stay quiet, you can't have loudspeakers on at the times you would be producing, I would definitely say, like, at least get studio monitor headphones.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, Audio Technica MTH X50s are the ones that I use now. I've used the MTH X25s. Those are also great if you're on more of a budget. And then KRK also has a great pair of headphones, a great pair of studio monitor headphones.
I didn't know that.
They lasted me a good while, and they're pretty solid. I really enjoyed using them. I made a decent amount of beats on them. I think I definitely made the beat to Dooley on that.
Okay.
So
all right.
on those, so yeah.
Okay. So you're a producer. For the people out there, it's a little bit different than an engineer. An engineer definitely has to work with an artist in the room. As a producer, you can send beats off and stuff like that. But I want to talk about the in-house, being with an artist, because that's the way that rap started. I think it had to be in-house. So with that being said, what qualities, with that being said, I had the question in my head. Okay. What qualities creates good chemistry between a producer and an artist?
It's got to be open communication.
Okay. All right.
First off, got to be, be able to communicate and accept feedback from that artist.
Gotcha.
Because honestly, the best people that you will work with as a producer are people who challenge you artistically, who tell you when they don't like a beat, will tell you what
very true
you should do differently to make it more their swag. I was very lucky to tap in with artists like that. I had that opportunity with artists like, shout out my man Kiza. My man Kiza, he's definitely one of the first that rock with me in that way, where we had that clear line of communication where he'll tell me straight up, what sound works for him and what sound doesn't.
Absolutely. Yep.
And the other thing that's important for a producer in that aspect is you gotta take your emotions out of that scenario.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You can't be stubborn.
Cannot be stubborn. You've got to listen to them And even if you think something you sent them that they weren't feeling, even if you think that's like, oh man, but that beats it, how can you not fuck with that one? That's it. But yeah, and there will be times like that. If when you find that artist, then it's, I've noticed, the more skilled the artist is, the more picky they are with the beats.
Yeah, absolutely. Very true. Very, very, very true.
And so you got to use that to your advantage and let that constructive criticism flow your way. Don't get hung up on what they said, or if they didn't appreciate a beat that is fire, because it probably is. It's just not exactly for them as much as you might have thought.
Absolutely. I can agree with that. Just to piggyback off of what you're saying, you have to, as a producer, you got to compliment the artist. It's a lot of producers out there that they kind of want to be the artist, and that's not ideal, because there's going to be another person that comes in and gets on your beat. So you don't want to make it too complicated. You don't want to drown it in hi-hats, drown it in 808s. You want to leave some space for the artist to be able to actually say something on the track. I've seen that with a lot of beginning producers. They'll come to me and be like, yo, I'm starting off, and they play the beat and it's like, and I'm just like, bro, like, I'm a rapper myself, and the melody is hard, but it's no way I can't even rap on this. Like, you got to think about the art. I think that's an advantage that I had becoming a producer after I was already an artist. Yeah, you got to think about the artist. If you think about the artist, compliment his swag, his style, and don't go in there thinking, my beat has to be heard. Like, nah, if your beat is good, it's good, and the artist is going to come in and make it better from what he says, how he flows on the track. You don't want to go in there and outshine the artist. That's not your job. Do you think that's valid? I know you've been producing longer than me.
Oh, absolutely valid. And yeah, there's, you pointed something out there that's, very, very true, and it's something that I've grappled with also in producing, especially coming from an EDM background where, the beat is the song. It's like you're creating a song with just like beat noises and percussion and sounds and stuff. So, it's really easy as an artist, especially, like if you're a producer, you're very inspired, especially by modern music, especially if, you're EDM inspired. I know you're house inspired. Yeah. So, I came from the dubstep world too. So it's very easy to want to like, oh, I want to just throw all this crazy sauce in there. It's going to sound crazy, but you gotta, realize that like an artist needs space to flow on a track. They need an atmosphere. They need room to work. And, that's the point where you got to focus on taking things away from a beat instead of adding things.
Absolutely. I agree. Since we still on the producer topic, this is a question that I've seen in the producer internet corner, the corner where all the producers go. It's a common question. I want to get your take on it. Do you consider using loops as cheating when it comes to producing?
Absolutely not. However a song gets done, it is just how it gets done. Using loops, I can see why some people would think it's a shortcut. I mean, it makes it very easy to produce a track, especially if you're drum oriented. It'll make it, a lot easier to pump out.
That's that 10, 15 beats a day shit.
Exactly. So, it does make the workflow a lot easier and a lot more efficient. But it is, I wouldn't go so far as to call it cheating, because you still have to have an idea of where the drums are going to go.
Absolutely.
Over that loop.
Absolutely.
Especially with, everything nowadays, for the most part in hip hop is driven by the bass, driven by the 808. because, you eventually, whenever you go out, you're in the car, you're going to hear it on that sub, and it's going to, that's what's going to come through the most and affect people the most. So, you need to know what the notes are in the bass line of that track, or that loop.
The key,
what key it's in, because a lot of times, I try to put a key on all my loops when I send them out, but I'm guilty of it myself too.
I think a lot of producers are. Me too.
They're not always on top of what the BPM and the key is, so you got to be ready to kind of figure out the drums tuning by ear and kind of go from there. So I think there's a certain level of skill in flipping a loop. I mean, I feel like it's not much different than flipping a soul sample.
Absolutely. I agree. I consider it sampling, and one of the greatest producers ever sampled probably 90% of his catalog, Kanye West. So I use loops. I don't think it's a problem with anybody that does use loops. If you make your own VSTs and all that, your own melodies using VSTs, I even look at you on a higher regard, because I want to get to that level eventually. But like he said, it's a workflow thing. It gives you more work ethic. You hear that loop. There's a lot of artists out there that can hear the first second of a loop and be like, nah, that ain't it. So when you're in the studio with somebody, even if you created the loops yourself, got them from somewhere else, when you're in the studio with another artist, I suggest you use loops, because a lot of these artists work fast. So
yes.
I think it's a good thing. I think using loops is just like using samples. So don't feel discouraged. If you're first starting out, that's a good way to start out at first. Okay, so this is the Hood Analyst Podcast, where we talk about that real hood shh. So I gotta throw in a hood question. Now, music has become much more accessible. Anybody can make a song. A 5-year-old can make a song, as long as somebody got a Scarlett interface, some speakers. You don't even need speakers. You can do it with headphones. It's very accessible. It's not like how it used to be, where you had to pay hundreds of dollars to get in the only studio in town. Anybody can make music now. With that being said, does it affect your workflow recording artists who use drugs, may drink liquor during their sessions, just more hood activity in the studio? Does it affect your workflow?
See, that's a funny one.
Good question, right? Yeah, I'm getting right.
I like that one, because it's interesting, because recently, I think, before one of my more recent studio sessions, I would have said no, and I would have encouraged that kind of activity in the session, because I want that element.
Growth.
I do want a sort of, chaotic, but not chaotic, element to the session. I want some, some activity going on, but at the same time, I realized recently, I had a studio session, and, it was the first time I saw in real time, because I'm so used to just sending out beats and stuff like that. So this is, one of the few times I got to pop out to the stew and meet with an artist. And we had so much fun. We had a great time, tapping in. It was the first time tapping in with them. And we had a great time, but only got one. I think we got one song done, so it made me realize, like, okay, you do have to maintain a level of focus during any, studio session, especially, in person with an artist, especially if it's, an artist that you are really interested in getting more songs with.
Absolutely. So, I think you want to find a balance. You want the artist to feel at home. If they're essential for them is weed and all that, yeah, cool. But you're going to have to lock in with that artist a couple of times. I would suggest, telling them to come solo or just bring one person, because when you get a whole bunch of dudes in one room and they get active like that, like he said, ain't shit gonna get done. Y'all gonna have fun. Y'all gonna throw jokes and be laughing and all that, but will the work get done? Most likely not. So if you got like I said, an artist that use alcohol or weed and stuff like that, lock in with them a couple times, get their rhythm, get their flow, and make sure that they actually can work while being under the influence, because it gets crazy. All right, 2 more questions before we switch over to the next kind of content. I really want to ask these 2 questions. Actually, I'll ask that one last. This is the first time I'm asking this question. I should have asked it a little while ago, but I keep forgetting. How do you feel about AI music? I heard a Drake song that was, the lyrics were made up, the voice was made up, the beat was made up, all by Android 18. Like, I don't get it. How you got Android 17 rapping in Drake's voice? So how do you feel about AI music, the future of it? Does it piss you off? Do you like it? I just want to get a real genuine take on it while it's early.
Yeah. So I haven't, I've only read a little bit about the AI stuff, Chat GPT and everything, just the surface level of it. But, of course a part of it absolutely pisses me off.
Yeah, of course. Come on. Yeah, talk that talk.
Whenever a job, your job becomes automated in any way, even though I feel like, I don't know, at the rate it's moving, it might be faster than expected, but it's just, anytime your job, because, my father, he was a graphic designer and he worked for companies like American Express and
shout out to Pops.
And KPMG was another one. So yeah, he, very talented graphic designer, but it got to the point, in his lifetime where the jobs were being outsourced to, people who would, do the work for cheaper, and for, longer hours and whatnot. And so this is taking it to a whole new level. Like now that art is being automated, I think it's,
never thought I would have saw the day.
No, I never. But it also at the same time, to leave it my answer on an optimistic note, it also gives me hope at the same time, because it makes me think, okay, well, maybe, the entire digital landscape will become so oversaturated with AI generated artwork and whatnot that there will be a renewed demand for, true, artistic, human art.
Absolutely. Yeah. The human art value is going to skyrocket. Hopefully, I'm not no financial advisor. I dibble and dabble in stocks a little bit, but don't take my word for this, but I predict that actual human artists will be much more valued. So I'm glad we both think the same thing. I'm glad you wanted to leave it on an optimistic note. And with that being said, last question. Do you feel like producers are appreciated as much as they should be? It's a stigma with a lot of producers out there. I'll see in the comments sometimes like, oh, I didn't get paid for this. And like, producers can be really closed in people, not really good people, not really good extroverts. They're most likely introverts. So a lot of them feel that they don't get the appreciation that they deserve. How do you feel about that?
Well, I could totally understand that. We all, any artist in any medium, whether you're a writer, a producer, you're musical or, whatever your art form is, whatever your medium is, you will feel that, underappreciation. And, so I totally, understand that. And honestly, to me, I think, the music game is unfair to producers in a lot of ways.
I think so too.
It definitely is. When you look at the, how Spotify pays out its artists, per stream, And once I experienced that with, dropping my debut album, Trapping All Day, I saw how little that compensation, these giant corporations that definitely have money to spare, if they can give Joe Rogan $250 million for a contract, I would hope that they could, show hip hop producers some more love and producers in general some more love. So, that's kind of my stance on it. My stance on, and just to add on to that, I my goal, one of my long-term goals in music is to unionize artists in some way.
Very smart. Very smart.
Pimp C said it best. Is that the industry of music, in whatever form, whether it was back in his day or now when it's more online driven, it's still unification. If artists unionize, if producers especially unionized, then they would definitely be able to push and make more leverage demands. Absolutely. For more, a dollar per stream or whatever the goal would be.
I agree. You would be much more of a force to be reckoned with when you have a group of producers coming in like, look, we demand this. We make the beats. We make the artists sound as good as they sound on the track. Pay us. That's how you got to come. You can't be sitting there complaining about that shit. Right. So with that being said, Trap is over here definitely probably hanging me by the throat. I don't understand how long we went into this. I know we was going to have a long conversation. Was that over 20 minutes? Okay, so we're going to not run through this real quick, but, we're going to be brief. We're not going to shove them out. We're going to get these out, but we do have a time limit. We're going to switch over to the shorties now. We always talk about the shorties. The first question is catered to you. Have you ever dealt with a woman who got angry at you spending so much time on your craft? And how did you deal with it?
Yes. Short answer, yes. And I dealt with it just by, being clear with her.
That's it. That's all. Direct.
I love this shit. This has been, it got me more money, more therapy than you could ever give me as a human being.
So,
I just had, I have to put it in blunt terms. And, that's why, to quote, and I said this to you before the show, I'm going to be quoting the late great Patrice O'Neal a lot on the Shorty questions, because he was definitely a philosopher when it came to, men and women and the relationship game.
He's a comedian, by the way. You can look him up on YouTube. Very hilarious.
Late great comedian. One of the greatest to ever do it. In my mind, top 3 is probably my favorite. But okay. But yeah, so I'll be probably quoting him a lot, quoting his ideas a lot in this segment, because I definitely learned a lot from him. And it's just, when you're in a position like that where you have a passion or something you do for work, if you're a producer especially, and your shorty's not is kind of starting to get jealous of the time you spend with your craft because you are so passionate and invested in that. 2 things. One, first off, if you started paying the attention to her that you do to your craft and paying that the mind that, the same mind to her that you do your craft, she would be like, ugh, oh my God, what is he loving me so much for?
That's a fact.
Because if music was a person, I would be writing love letters to her. I would be doing the corniest shit ever to try to slide in her DM. So
wait, no wait, what?
If I can't, I cannot, I will put our relationship in jeopardy if I show her that kind of love.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1000%. It may sound harsh coming off to the ladies, but y'all don't really want that shit. You do not want a nigga that's in your face 24/7. You want somebody that got some passion, ambition, that got his own life. And I feel like relationships actually work out better like that. If a girl is pressing you about how much time you spend on your craft, she's probably very immature and not the woman for you anyway. Do you prefer, let me put the phone down. Do you prefer a woman who's more creative, artistic like you, or a working class woman?
That's a good one. I would have to say artistic.
Okay. Elaborate.
Because it first off, I this is kind of something I was getting into on the last question too, is that, to also, quote Patrice, like great Patrice, I think people use the term, brutally honest.
Okay.
You're brutally honest. Whereas, he said this exact thing. I think brutality should be associated with lying, so, you're a brutal liar. Like, so that should be the phrase really. So, I feel like, if you're dating a woman that's, in the artistic arena, that can kind of understand, once you get those couple of placements as a producer, and like, she'll understand really how big of a deal you are,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
that in a way that, you can be honest about, your passions, like we were just talking about before too, be honest about how much you love music and honestly prefer it to her, because if she's in the arts too, she probably prefers her medium of art to you as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you can, find people on that same wavelength, but I can understand the other side of it too, is, if you're just with a square working class girl, she might have even more appreciation for it because it's not a world she's in. So
got you.
She, an artistic woman might, kind of dismiss, more of your talents and be like, oh, I do art too. I know what that entails. Whereas, a working class girl who just works, at the store, will listen to something you made and be like, oh my God, you made that? Like, cause she's not in the artistic, ecosystem. So
absolutely. I see both. I could do both. I could work with a girl that's creative because, like you said, she'll be able to share my wins. Like if she's a painter or an artist, when she wins, I know how it feels because it's like, yo, like you passionate about that. You're being seen. You're being noticed. I know how it feels. And then on the other side too, with a working class girl, you could really blow her mind away. Like, wow, you're this creative. And like, it's cool. I could do both. I just wanted to see what you thought about that. We always are trying to bring men and women together on this show. So I'm asking most of the men this question so the shorties can understand and get a gauge on what they could work on. Because, shorties, I see y'all starting to actually work on the attitude a little bit. Name one thing. I don't like how I said name. Name one thing that women don't understand about men. Just one. You could take a little time to think. You don't gotta go too crazy.
It's a tough one. But I would say one thing. The question is one thing that the ladies don't understand about men.
Yep.
So, okay. So I would say how to be liked.
Okay. All right. Elaborate.
And how men, again, quoting Patrice here, men really are the most enthralled with a woman when they're in like, not when they're in love. You talk to a motherfucker that's he's like, yeah, I like this chick, man. Oh, I met this chick the other night. Oh, we were out dancing, blah, blah, blah. I got her number, man. Oh, I like her, man. She's cool, blah, blah, blah. You know, if you talk to a guy in love, yeah, I love her. I guess I'm in love. I'm in it. You know, and you know, like I said, you know, that's quote that to Patrice O'Neal, but you know, that is how I feel about it. You know, ladies, y'all should recognize that it's better for a dude to like you than to love you in most cases.
Okay,
you know?
all right,
and it's men like being in like. I feel like better. Yeah, at least me definitely. I like better than I like love. I've tried both, and yeah.
So I've never heard that before. So I'm gonna give my take on that. I think it's kind of accurate. I'm not gonna lie. I think that women, you guys could work to try to hold on to that beginning phase of the relationship a little bit longer, because love comes with a lot of responsibilities, and it won't totally destroy your relationship if you guys both have the same core values, the same motives. I think it'll work. You can be in love and you guys can still move to the next level. But when you're in that like stage, and if that like stage lasts longer than the average time it lasts in a relationship, I think it's better for the love. So I understand what he's saying when you're kind of like infatuated with a girl. And the reason why we get like that is because, yeah, it's new, but also the girl hasn't gotten into that, all right, we in love, all these responsibilities. I'm just going to walk around with this resting bitch face because this shit ain't fun anymore. Like, yeah, it's going to happen. I understand that. But if you could drag out that like stage longer and still work on being liked while being in a long-term relationship, that will go a long way. I think that's what he was trying to say. That's what I got from it. And I agree with that. So I didn't ask you, you don't have to answer, but kids in a relationship can be either a wall, they can be a added plus. People coming into the relationship with kids. I don't know if you like that or not, but that's why I'm about to ask you this question. Would you ever date a single mother?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I don't see anything wrong with it. You know, totally, you know, I totally would be open to it. You know, it's, you know, a couple of girls I'm friends with are single mothers, you know, from back in the day and in high school and stuff that I still keep in touch with. So, you know, I got respect for the single mothers out there, you know, that are out looking for love. And, you know, but I think that also at the same time, you know, in the vein of the Patrice philosophy, that I'm, you know, that I really, you know, am aligned with, in terms of relationships. I think that, you know, there's certain situations where if you're in a relationship with a single mom, mm-hmm. she may complain about something to you, like say, you have like another girl's like jacket or something from a past relationship, okay. You know, and say she's giving you some shit about that, and she's like, oh, you know, why, you know, and it's nothing malicious on your part. You just never got to return it or whatever. You know, this is the scenario. Okay. You know, and say, you know, she starts saying, you know, oh, why do you have this other bitch's, you know, clothes in your mm-hmm. closet, blah, blah, blah. That's a great opportunity for you to say, you have a kid. I am looking at another guy fucking you. Every time I look at your kid, I see another guy's balls.
Talk to him.
And you're going to talk to me about a sweatshirt or some boots or whatever in my closet. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know?
I love it.
So, yeah, that's a little more of that Patrice philosophy that I subscribe to. You know?
All right. So yeah, I agree with you. I have no problem dating single mothers. I've dated single mothers, but just like he said, you have to understand that that man is making a huge sacrifice. So my advice to the single mothers would be work on that motherfucking attitude. Because if you even got a man, you might as well be grateful, because the dude that gave you the kid ain't even around, and another dude coming in and helping you out and loving you for who you are and looking at your kid and seeing that nigga's face. It's tough. It's tough. So you're going to have to lay off on that arguing about dumb shit and pressing him and where you at. And come on now, ladies. Come on now. He's making a huge sacrifice, especially if he don't got no kids. Like, come on now.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Let's get 2 or 3 more out of here. Very simple question. Just for the ladies out there. Everybody has a different type. What is your type? Petite, or sorry, let me ask this question better. What is your type when it comes to women? The nerdy glasses type, a more petite woman, a more thick woman. What's your type? Just showing off different men's perspectives out there.
I would say, you know, if I'm going to keep it all the way 100 with you, and you know, my friends will know when they see this if I'm telling the truth. So I got to definitely curvy women.
Okay, all right.
Voluptuous is the word that I like to use.
Got you.
If it, you know, if there's nothing to grab onto per se, I'm not totally thrilled about that. I like women who are curvy, have a curvier figure. Might be, you know, a little technically by medical standards, a little overweight, but you know, I don't really care about that.
Okay.
You know, but yeah, you know, I would say, you know, in terms of, you know, objective qualities, definitely, you know, thick, slim, thick, and you know, just you know, I look for, you know, I would say I look for a woman who can understand not just a joke, but just how I, you know, how I talk, how I communicate.
Got
you know,
you.
because
Okay.
I do a lot of, you know, I've been mentioned, you know, Patrice O'Neal and stand-up comedy a little bit.
So you got some jokes in there.
I'm definitely a comedy nerd. So, you know, I like to do bits. You know, the more I get to know somebody, you know, in life, the more I'll joke around with them, the more comfortable I'll get, you know, doing a comedy bit, you know, just for fun. It's just one of the ways that, you know, I like to, you know, relieve stress and you know, laugh when it's, you know, in dark times or whatever.
Got you.
But yeah, just, you know, just a chick who can, you know, has a sense, you know, semblance of a sense of humor that can understand, you know, what goes into, you know, a bit, and you know, can kind of be on that same page with me, you know, like improvising along with me to make it, you know, sound more ridiculous and more funny. You know, that's just instant key to my heart. So
Got you. Okay. So a girl with a sense of humor. Look, I love the fact that you, because this is going to trump a lot of the women out there. I love the fact that you took it from something physical, even though I asked the physical question, and you still went to the mind. You still went to the sense of humor. And that was going to be my next question. What's your type when it comes to her mind, of her personality? And I'm just going to answer real quick. My type. The reason I had the next question lined up is because the physical type is, I'm one of those guys where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I like a woman who's comfortable in her own skin. So as long as you're not walking around like, I got a little gut and not doing anything about it, I'm not gonna like that. But you can have a little gut as long as you in the gym doing something about it. You could be a little bit on the overweight side as long as you're doing something about it. That I'm more attracted to the mind and her personality. It doesn't necessarily have to be a black girl or a Spanish girl or an Asian girl or a thick girl or a skinny girl. I do like girls with glasses though. That's I do like that. But yeah, it's more the mind. And I was just having this conversation with a shorty the other day. She asked me what my type was, and I couldn't answer it because I don't know how to explain this, but I'm just one of those guys that like if you walk past me and you're feminine, you're dressed like a woman, I'm gonna holler at you. It don't matter if you thick or skinny or anything like that. So it's the mind. So let's end the show off with that. You said sense of humor, but I want to get one more thing when it comes to personality, her heart, the way she thinks, the way she moves. What's your type when it comes to that?
So in terms
besides the sense of humor.
Okay. So in terms of the way she moves, she has to be well read. She has to be well read. Because if I can't talk about the state of American politics or something, big topics like that with on a somewhat serious level, I'm a casual reader, a consumer of news, just like anybody else.
All right,
but
me
you
too.
know,
All right.
but it's just like, I want somebody who actually has an idea about what's going on in the world and can engage with me on that level and thinks philosophically like that, but also like is willing to learn about more things like that and expand their perception of humanity in that way. And so if the knowledge isn't there right away, at least be have a thirst for the knowledge,
got you.
First place.
Yes, got you. I agree with that. Real quick, Trap, don't kill me. Who your favorite author?
My favorite author of all time is Nick Pizzolatto.
Ooh, never heard of him. I gotta go check him out. I was hoping that you said somebody that I like too. I like Robert Greene, Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell was great. I saw Malcolm Gladwell live when I saw a taping of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
Oh, damn, that's fire. Okay, all right, that's fire.
And it was funny because he came on, he was talking about the book he had just written at the time, David and Goliath. And it was all about a big portion of what he talked about in the interview were people, big, successful figures, politicians, businessmen, whatever, who lost their father at an early age. And this is, I was probably like 17, 18-ish when I went to this taping, I think.
Okay.
So it was a little while ago, when Jon Stewart was on The Daily Show. So it was a little while back, but, it was kind of a few years fresh off of losing my father. So it was pretty incredible to hear him talk about that and, talk about how, it was one of those things that kind of, spurred on that, like that drive to create, that drive to get into the music and, dive in head first, is that like, oh, look at what all these other guys, this famous name and this famous name did with their pain from losing their parent. So
absolutely. Man.
Why can't I do the same?
Absolutely. This is the Hood Analyst, but I'm a nerd at heart. I know how to sit down and focus and really lock into something, and books is one of those things. So just a quick gem for y'all out there. Get some books, man. Some self-help books. Even if you ain't even in that lane, just go read a story, a novel, or autobiography. It really, really makes a huge impact. I would say that it's probably one of the biggest impacts on my life and made me who I am today. So yeah, read some books, guys. Put the controller down. Put the PS5 controller down.
Put the IG down. All that.
Read some books sometimes. With that being said, we have Bray Zonde, wonderful guest, making his father proud. R.I.P. to his father. I know he's smiling down on you right now. I'm going to take us out with the famous saying. I got to say this. Men, get your body count up because women will never tell you what they like. You need to have some experience so when you come across the girl that you actually do want to put the ring on, you could please her and satisfy her. And women, keep your body count low. And if you can't do that, at least deceive the nigga into thinking that it's low because he will take you more seriously. We out.
Hey. Excellent, man. That was excellent, bro.